Jesper Hjulmen up against Alexander Blessin on the coaching front. Leverkusen have Janis Blaswich in goal. It's his first Pokal outing since winning the competition with Leipzig in 2023. Mark Flecken out with a knee injury. 3 changes from the side that began the win in Frankfurt. Lucas Vazquez makes his Pokal debut, comes in for Artur, while Ezequiel Palacios gets his first start since mid-September. Eki Fernandez drops out. Patrick Schick, for whom the goals haven't been flowing, is nevertheless named ahead of Christian Kofani. Robert Andrich and Karol Metz are the captains tonight. Florian Badstübner, the referee. Robert Andrich said we'll stay where we are. St. Pauli go with Ben Voll in goal, and he hails, by the way, from Bergisch Gladbach, which is the next community over from here. Was their penalty shootout saviour in round 2 when they knocked out Hoffenheim. 3 other changes from the weekend. Luis Oppi plays from the start, scored the winner in the last round in Gladbach, and a beaten finalist with Bielefeld last season. Also coming in, Martijn Kaars and Matthias Pereira-Lage. The 3 outfield players left out from Saturday: Eric Smit, who's injured, Manoli Saliakas and Ricky J. Jones. And the bad news for St. Pauli is that they're without Hauke Wahl, the defensive mainstay, as well as Eric Smit. First time that has occurred. The 2 of them have been missing this term. They are the underdogs, but it won't bother them. And Leverkusen are taking this very seriously, as you do when you get to the last 8 of the DFB Pokal. It has been a wintry sort of day on the cold side here. And to the north and east, some significant snow has fallen, but we're okay here in Leverkusen and just about ready for the off. Who's it going to be in terms of progression? Florian Badstübner just waiting to make sure everything is synchronised. The opening quarter-final. It's one of 2 pitting Bundesliga team against Bundesliga team. Bayer Leverkusen and St. Pauli going at it tonight here in the early February cold on the Rhine. There's a lot of interest in the St. Pauli setup because of the fact that Eric Smit is not there. They normally play with 3 at the back. We'll monitor it as things move along. Luis Oppi has come into the side, likes to do a bit of marauding on the left. Big part of the Bielefeld side that, let's not forget, eliminated Leverkusen from the Pokal at the semi-final stage last season and actually set up the winning goal. Grinds to a halt here for the Kiezkicker, as they're affectionately known. The neighbourhood kickers from the city of Hamburg. About a 4-hour journey by road to the north of here. Patrick Schick leading the attack for Leverkusen. Just 1 goal in his last 7 Bundesliga games. Edmond Tapsoba on the left-hand prong of the Leverkusen defence. And Ezequiel Palacios back in the starting 11. He hopes his injury nightmare is over. He'll be trying to team up with Aleix Garcia. It's Robert Andrich in the middle of the defence. Garcia coming into it, and Jarel Kwanzaa getting on the ball just then. One of the candidates for Bundesliga Rookie of the Month. That news just coming out a few hours ago. Tomoya Ando, one of 2 Japanese players in the starting 11 for FC St. Pauli. They have 3 in the matchday squad as they've just signed Taichi Hara, the target man. Perhaps we'll see him later. Palacios with Garcia. Every expectation that Leverkusen will dominate on the possession front, but they have to be mindful of quick bursts from the visitors. Well, they were able to get on the ball with Pereira Lage on the left-hand side. There he is. Just when Leverkusen looked as though they were in a comfortable sort of rhythm, it was Palacios. Maybe still a little bit rusty. And so the first corner of this quarter-final goes to St. Pauli. Will be taken by Daniel Sinani, Belgrade-born, but represents Luxembourg at international level. The left-footed Sinani wasn't a bad one. It bobbles around quite the scrap for the ball. Cars at the end of that has tried to steer it home, but to no avail. A bit of an early scare there for Bayer Leverkusen. And not able to sweep up finally. Oppi, who was back there, but well, St. Pauli almost made that early corner count. Martijn Kaars, the Dutch striker, joined earlier this season from Magdeburg. Well, they had Andrich and others standing guard. Just goes to show. Can lose the ball, and a few seconds later concede a corner and then be in real trouble. Intriguing Pokal evening ahead. Kwanzaa for Andrich. Always really interesting watching the positioning these days of Alex Grimaldo, as we think of him as a flying left wing back, but as often part playmaker too. Will come in off the touchline when they're in build-up mode. And Florian Badstubner blowing his whistle there. It's robust, to say the least, from Oppi. Up against Vasquez. Malik Tillman, just for a second, was up there side by side with Patrick Schick. And Tillman, who's come in for a little bit of criticism. This is his first season with Leverkusen, and it was a huge transfer fee. 35 million euro. He'd been a bit up and down, but last couple of matches, lights out. And the home fans, the Leverkusen fans, are seeing the best of Malik Tillman. He's poised to play a key role for the USA at the World Cup later this year. Alex Garcia trying to spread play out towards Vasquez, but Oppi read it well enough. Luis Oppi. Palacios doing the complaining. He thought he'd been fouled. Kesper Hjulmen likewise with his arms outstretched. Florian Badstubner saw no transgression. Mentioned Karol Metz wearing the armband for St. Pauli. First time that's been the case. Jackson Irvine on the bench. Erik Smit, Hauke Wahl not in the squad. So this is something new. Jackson Irvine was listening to him earlier just as the players were coming up for the warm-up, and he might be a substitute, but he's still very much the club captain, instructing the players to press as a unit. If it's a low block, they'd have to do that as a unit as well. Vasquez, vastly experienced campaigner, but his very first taste of the day at Pokal. Played on 33 occasions in the Spanish equivalent, the Copa del Rey. Here is Andrich for Die Werkself, the factory 11. And the factory has started to produce again of late. Conveyor belt wasn't quite working at maximum efficiency at the very start of this calendar year. This Leverkusen's oldest starting 11 this millennium, average age 29.1. They keep circulating the ball, and it's Palacios. Plenty of support there. It's pulled back towards Grimaldo. And Garcia was on the scene as well. And they will try to pull the opposition, in this case St. Pauli, out. Bamboozle them with changes of position. Garcia. Palacios and Garcia. Well, it won't be a surprise if they are the two who touch the ball more than any others out there in the course of this game. Could go out by the touchline. Palacios for Leverkusen. Robert Andrich. His first season as club captain. Here now is Jarel Kwanzaa, former Liverpool player. Not like Tillman, joined for a lot of money. That might open up here. Cars putting himself on the ball, will be a bit cross with himself, no doubt. That was cleverly done. He tried to keep the ball moving. It was Rasmussen who eventually released it. Mathias Rasmussen, the Norwegian. It was his first start at the weekend, and the defeat suffered at the hands of Augsburg. Took the lead in that game, wasn't to be for St. Pauli. You can see the St. Pauli fans, 3,000 of them in that corner in the away section. Tillman gave it to Palacios, back the way to Kwanzaa, and here is Andrich for Leverkusen. Terrier found himself out there on the left. Grimaldo and Schick together. Almost got in each other's way, but it was slick play by Schick. Tillman. Managed to get the break of it. He's being hounded by Oppi. Leverkusen have prevailed in their last two competitive home games, with clean sheets part of the story. Spoke about Tillman, the American. We have to speak about the other American in this game. That's James Sands. He's been a very reliable performer for St. Pauli. Having to sit a bit deeper than usual because of the absentees. Metz receiving it that time. And Benfol is the goalkeeper, who was the hero for St. Pauli in the second round when they overcame Hoffenheim on penalties. Oppi's pass on that occasion, but the intervention was by Palacios. A bit clumsy from Sinani. really put up much of an argument. He's going to have to come back. These two teams, by the way, will meet again 11 days from now at the same venue in the Bundesliga. Leverkusen fighting away on three fronts: the league, the Pokal and the Champions League. The playoff round opponents will be Olympiacos, who they faced just recently. Didn't quite go to plan on that occasion in the league phase, but a chance for revenge. Trying to keep it moving through Oppi. Well, that wasn't a bad ball at all, and well, it was fed across there by Pereira Lage. Well, if they can find a bit of flow, St. Pauli, you never know. Pereira Lage with cars available in the middle, but Edmond Tapsoba was patrolling that sector of the pitch for Leverkusen. A little bit over-eager, maybe. Terrier was the man who went flying. Andrich Kwanzaa. Third successive year reaching a quarter-final for Leverkusen. Really did sting the elimination at the semi-final stage last time around. They lost to Arminia Bielefeld. Well, let's not forget we're then a third-tier side, including Luis Oppi. Oppi has to keep a weather eye here on Vasquez. Wasn't a bad ball there, and it fell for Terrier, who's appealing. Ando had a bit of work to do defensively, and the timing was excellent. Andrich, Vasquez, Oppi just couldn't really get back swiftly enough. Terrier certainly was convinced that it came off. Ando, arm was out. Certainly no infringement. And Grimaldo to take this corner for Leverkusen. Well, nothing positive comes of it. A bit of foul play in there. Earlier on, well, they both went for it. Not sure if Terrier was asking the question about possible handball. Nobody else really seemed to have a decent view of it. Fabian Badstübner wants St. Pauli to get on with the game. Metz for Voll, and oh, element of risk about that. My goodness, and Schick is on the scene. Patrick Schick cleared off the line. Sands was back there, and now the whistle. Well, that went horribly wrong for St. Pauli, and words between Metz and Voll, and Leverkusen were quite simply trying to line it up. It was Metz actually who was there to make sure nothing untoward happened. And Voll really was scrambling. They all were. Sands and Metz and Ando. No end product for Kasper Hjulmen's side. Normally it would be Nicolas Vasile in goal for St. Pauli. But they've given the honour to Ben Voll. was terrific against Hoffenheim, not just in the penalty shootout as well. He made 2 saves, denying Andrej Kramaric, Albion Haidari. Tillman knew he couldn't get involved in the play, given the position he was in. So Foy, mentioned it earlier, he's a local boy, comes from Bergisch Gladbach, which is about as close as you can get to this city without actually being in Leverkusen. I know many of the people who work here at the Bayer Arena, work for the club, live in Bergisch Gladbach. And Foy used to play not so very far from here for Viktoria Köln. Community of Leverkusen, located between Cologne and Düsseldorf. Alexander Blessin versus Kesper Hjulmen. Alexander Blessin, former Belgian Cup winner as a coach with Union Saint-Gilloise. It certainly was a painful one. Palacios found himself over there by the touchline. Yellow card has come out. And there it was, the intervention. Joel Shima Fujita has played 7 times for Japan. Name taken by Florian Badstübner. Well, they're asking the question about something more serious perhaps being in order. See the nature of the challenge there on Palacios. Given as a yellow, not as a red. And on with the game here. No scoring. Almost 20 minutes into the match. Leverkusen and St. Pauli. First of the 4 quarter-finals, another one tomorrow. Holstein Kiel and Stuttgart, the cup holders. Next Tuesday, Hertha against Freiburg. And then on Wednesday, it's Bayern versus Leipzig. Andrich gave it away that time. I've seen a few mistakes from Leverkusen in that sort of fashion. It was Rasmussen doing his best to scrape it forward. Garcia succeeded in playing it back, and then Blaswich away. Yanis Blaswich, former Pokal winner with Leipzig. And getting his chance, he's got to be seeing quite a bit of game time. Looks like, with Mark Flecken on the casualty list, a knee injury. They brought in another goalkeeper, Jonas Omlin, on loan from just up the road from Borussia Mönchengladbach. And they, incidentally, are Leverkusen's weekend opponents coming up. And all showing for it there was Fujita. Metz. And that's a delightful pass. Managed to take out a few Leverkusen players in the process. Sinani. Fujita was there. Can they line something up? It's Pereira Lage in the thick of things. Up he goes in. Pereira Lage beside him once more. Sinani. Well, they stuck to their task. St. Pauli. You can see what the approach is. Trying to compel Leverkusen to make errors, and we've seen a few of them, and if you can do that as high up the pitch as possible, then of course it's always the short route to goal. Or shorter than it might otherwise be. Kwanzaa has got drawn out of position. Sinani taking on the shot, had Fujita beside him. Oppi for Metz. That's through the legs of Tillman. Can they combine here? Fujita! Well, it was on for St. Pauli. And it's a good little spell that they're enjoying. Metz, Tillman unable to stop it. Kars and Fujita with the shot. Really troubling Blasvik. St. Pauli demonstrating that they can pose problems, and I'd have every intention of so doing. So decent chance for Fujita. It was a glorious chance for Schick earlier. Schick, who, by the way, has never scored against a fellow Bundesliga side in the DFB Pokal. Must have 8 cup goals in total. None of them against Oberhaus teams. Palacios. Andy. Kwanzaa. There's the pressure coming again. It's from Kars. Really interesting to see how Leverkusen plan to play away from that pressure. Saying he's been taking a bit of stick from his family members, saying it's high time you actually won something. It's been a while since his days winning the Danish league as a coach. This would certainly be the best chance for Leverkusen to win a trophy in the current campaign. 25 minutes have elapsed, and Leverkusen, as we expected, enjoying the lion's share of ball possession, accurate with their passing, but St. Pauli are ahead on the shots or attempts front. So the plan that they've put together for this game, an effective one, you'd have to say, so far. On the XG, it's 0.79 Leverkusen, 0.68 St. Pauli. And well, that is not going to help the visitors' cause. Sinani. And it can be a handful. Pereira Lage offers a different sort of challenge. Plenty of noise being generated there in the Nordkurve here at the Bayer Arena. So a lot of the younger fans congregate. Again, Sinani, quite a lot, generally speaking, goes through him. He's an elegant footballer, Sinani. Left foot dominant. Metz, also a left-footed player. Fujita. Here's Tomoya Ando. Well, he was terrific in the recent draw with Leipzig. Game that was initially postponed at to find a new date, new midweek date for it. It's a bit of a slog for St. Pauli in terms of preserving their top-flight status. Performances have been better than they were for the most part in the first half of the season. Pauli with a header on that occasion, and well, they tried to get it away. Leverkusen was Tapsoba to begin with, and well, that is going to slither out of play. Again, they had the forward players looking as though they might mean business, and Leverkusen have lost their way in this game. Perplexing few minutes for Jesper Hjulmen. Nobody in the Leverkusen camp thought for 1 second it would be straightforward tonight. A lot of respect for St. Pauli. Tapsoba came back from the Africa Cup of Nations with Burkina Faso injured. Fully fit again now. So far, I haven't seen enough from Terrier, from Grimaldo on that left-hand side from a Leverkusen point of view. Here's Metz. Pauli. Karol Metz once again. He had the situation under control. It's a bit of a revolving door attack that we're seeing from St. Pauli, involving Zinani, Cars, Pereira Lage. Palacios. Andrich. Oh, Bayern 0-4 Leverkusen. Tapsoba, and again with Robert Andrich. Kwanzaa. No Loic Bade in the starting 11. He is on the bench. It's back from a Bundesliga suspension. Grimaldo. Scorer of 11 goals in all competitions this season, Alex Grimaldo. Seems to have become the first choice penalty taker as well. Pauli in no great hurry. The St. Pauli fans and fabulous voice. More than just a football club, known for their social activism. Well, it's been rather sluggish from Leverkusen in the last 10, even 15 minutes, you might say. Really since that self-inflicted wound from Fall. And St. Pauli, they tried to play out from the back, and Schick couldn't avail himself of the chance. Kwanzaa trying to be direct, and Schick waiting here. Goes down, but nothing there. And this time the shot comes in, and Terrier! Wonderful finish from Martin Terrier. Well, who needs a penalty when you can fire them home in that manner? Jesper Hjulmen and Leverkusen will be thrilled, because it wasn't a particularly strong passage of the game from their point of view, but they're one to the good against St. Pauli. And Schick went down. It was a bit of a half-hearted appeal. Terrier took charge, and this is a player who really has rounded into form after initial difficulties and injury problems in his first season with Leverkusen. Terrier beyond the reach of Fall. a good deal happier on the Leverkusen bench now. Martin Terrier, former Rennes player. Remember being here for his competitive debut when he was shown a straight red card. That was in the Super Cup, the DFL Super Cup meeting with Stuttgart. Still, Leverkusen went on to lift that trophy. Sixth goal of Martin Terrier's Leverkusen career. That is very first goal in the DFB Pokal. I'd say a little bit cruel on St. Pauli, given their comportment, their attitude. It's exactly as Jackson Irvine, the club captain, told the players just prior to the warm-up. When we press, we do it together, and that's exactly what they were doing. Andries pass for Kwanzaa. Lage. Well, not giving him a moment's peace. Went in again. Lage. Free kick, the outcome. Well, that goal certainly will have steadied a few nerves. Garcia with the pass. It was an ambitious one as he tried to unleash Grimaldo on the St. Pauli defence. Here's Ando for the Keats kicker. Tamsoba read it impeccably. Tillman, and that was almost the perfect pass. That's what I was talking about. Grimaldo veering infield, becoming a playmaker, come attacking midfield man, almost an extra forward, and that element of surprise is something that we've seen time and again this season. Fernando Caro, the CEO of Leverkusen, well wrapped up. Thomas Eichin next to him there in the main stand. Simon Rolfes, who's the sporting CEO, tends to watch from the bench. It's very normal for that to happen here in German football. Sporting directors frequently to be found on the bench. Metz for St. Pauli. Martin Terrier, the goal scorer. He's had a couple of attempts in this match, 26 total touches. An unwanted milestone goal for St. Pauli, 200 conceded in the DFB Pokal. Leverkusen, by the way, haven't gone goalless now in 41 DFB Pokal matches. It's not only a club record, but also the longest current run of any team on that front. Here's Oppi, and again he had the pistons pumping, but Vasquez was able to get back. Really had to turn on the jets just to do that. Effective play by Oppi. Lage was making that supporting run, and Jackson Irvine and company on the bench knew that was a potential chance to level. And Vasquez not been there. Now Sinani will take this corner. Well, maybe not. Decided to wave on Pereira Lage. See if they can befuddle Leverkusen here. Oppi, not quite the contact he was looking for. We had Ando, amongst others, up inside the area. 1-0 here to Bayer Leverkusen. First of the quarter-finals in the DFB Pokal. Leverkusen, the winners of this competition a couple of years ago. That amazing double winning season. First team ever to do it. Domestic double while remaining unbeaten in the Bundesliga and in the Pokal. St. Pauli tried to make it to the semi-finals for only the second time. Did it famously season 2005-2006. And they were actually a third-tier team, playing then in the Regionalliga Nord, which was part of the third-tier setup under that constellation. Knocked out Hertha, knocked out Bremen. Finally ran into Bayern. They made a very memorable documentary about it, which they showed on German TV a couple of years ago. Timo Schulz was part of that side, went on to coach the team. Oppi all the way up. Kars is vying for it there with Andrich Sinani. Oppi touching it on. Almost got themselves into a muddle there. It came off Terrier. Can St. Pauli find a way through? Well, perhaps this time Pirka was up, making that advanced run, and Kars tried to finish it off. Well, this is what Arkadiusz Pirka can offer. Man from Poland. And Leverkusen cut open to an extent there. Kars just couldn't quite direct it on target. Does have 2 Pokal goals to his name this season, the first of which came while he was still with Magdeburg. Oppi, certainly not afraid to strike the ball, Luis Oppi. It's a bit flattering, this, the lead that Leverkusen have. Again, Pirka was up there helping out the attackers. And Pirka sending it in low, and again, and then Andrich away. Leverkusen might be leading, but there is certainly room for improvement. On the XG, St. Pauli are ahead. Just goes to show possession is not always the name of the game. Sands and company having to get back quickly now, and oh, that was risky. Tillman almost in full flow, and it was a battle of the 2 Americans, Malik Tillman and James Sands. Ando for St. Pauli. Palacios has it. Leverkusen try to build with this first half ebbing away here at the Bayer Arena, and Kwanzaa and Blaswich began his career at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Not all that far away. Leverkusen will be there at the weekend. It's the Topspiel, the late match on Saturday. Leverkusen in 6th in the Bundesliga. There's a decent chance Germany could have 5 Champions League representatives next season. Of course, first things first, have work to do in the Champions League in the playoff round. Finished middle of the pack in the league phase. Tapsoba, Andrich, Kwanzaa. Missed out the midfield area. Schick with that touch on, and running room for Vasquez. Lucas Vasquez. Schick takes over now. Grimaldo. Plenty of players back, including Fujita and Pereira Lage, but straight down the throat of Andrich. Both sides giving the ball away. And the challenge comes in from Garcia, who is duly booked by Florian Badstubner. And it was an untidy little spell. And the challenge from Garcia not particularly neat either. Ando has 3 caps for Japan. Has been described as a defensive all-rounder. Good in the air, flexible, versatile. Oppi is the man who played it infield. Looked like a little shove there from Kars, right in front of Jesper Hjulmen. Now, it's all about the end result. In terms of artistic impression from Leverkusen, marks handed out based on the first half are going to be on the low side. We know they can play better, and Garcia with the latest mistake. Pirka lost the ball. It's Palacios who did his job for the Werkself. And 2 minutes to be added on at the end of this half. Jürgen Storks with the electronic board. Fujita. Pauli will feel they don't deserve to be trailing. James Sands, 14 caps for the USA. Midfielder from Rye, New York. They covered 12.45 kilometers on Saturday. That's a running machine. Big Schick asking the question, but it wasn't a serious question, but then a serious finish from Martin Terrier to give Leverkusen the lead. Almost nonchalant. Just what Leverkusen required, as they were actually toiling at that stage of the game, and they haven't improved greatly since that goal. Kwanzaa. We've almost had the 2 added minutes. And Oppi was there just in front of Metz for St. Pauli. Throw-in coming up here for Leverkusen and for Tillman. He will give it instead to Vasquez. Palacios. Kwanzaa. And Sands emerging. Vasquez and Tillman together. Fujita trying to come away with it. Metz. And there goes the half-time whistle. Leverkusen have the lead in this quarter-final. Martin Terrier with the goal on 32 minutes. But St. Pauli, you could argue, have been the more compelling side, the more dangerous-looking team with their pressing approach. We'll see what the second half brings. But at half-time at the Bay Arena, 1-0 Leverkusen. So Martin Terrier continues to play well. First ever goal he has scored in the DFB Pokal. The Bay Arena, the venue for this, the first of the quarter-finals. Capacity just over 30,000 here. And a look at the facts and figures. Leverkusen have had more of the ball, but St. Pauli more of the shots or attempts. And really up for this, winning 57% of their challenges and outrunning their hosts. So the story of this first half, and St. Pauli, this corner played over by Zinani. It was pinball-like inside the area. Cars there, unable to fire. And Leverkusen were able to smuggle it away, but Schick back there as almost the last line of defence. And it was a bit of an ungainly scene, and this was an ungainly scene as well. Bedford with the pass, Tillman was there, and it looked as though Schick simply had to score. But it was Metz with the clearance, last-ditch clearance, and the inquiry about possible handball from Palacios. St. Pauli got away with that because for much of the first half they restricted Leverkusen to very little in front of goal. But you would have backed Schick to score. Has been going through a dry spell. Watch what happened here. Schick going down. Was a sort of a brief shout for a penalty, not a serious one. But then Terrier with that goal, finding the right part of the net. Was Sands who was there beside Schick just a couple of seconds later. The opening goal, courtesy of Martin Terrier for Bayer Leverkusen. So there we have it. Bayer Leverkusen leading St. Pauli by 1-0. But St. Pauli have asked several questions. We'll be back with the second half.
They were born to score goals.
Oh my goodness, what a beautiful goal!
Born to write history.
He writes himself into the storybook of this famous competition.
8 young players who rewrote the record books. Huge talents, big names, and their first steps in professional football. Here they are, the youngest DFB Pokal goal scorers of this millennium. Our countdown starts at number 8, and a name that might not be on the lips of every football fan, Mohamed Sanko. But back in 2021, the 17-year-old was seen as a rising star in Stuttgart, and Sanko scored in his first cup match.
Yeah, the link-up's good. And Sanko rising and scoring. With 8 to go, Sanko adds another from the bench. Just 17 years, 9 months, 22 days old, a first professional goal.
That star hasn't yet risen to its full potential, in contrast to Can Uzun made his entrance as if he knew this would be a day for the history books.
And their teenage boy wonder, Can Uzun, already their youngest ever goal scorer.
At the age of 17, Uzun started for Nürnberg away to Oberneuland.
Can Uzun, and the young boy of 17 now becomes Nürnberg's youngest ever goal scorer in the DFB Pokal.
And showed right from the word go, he has a real nose for goal.
And there to tap in, Can Uzun again.
A good day to make your mark.
Can Uzun, the youngest hat-trick scorer in the competition for 81 years.
Uzun cast his spell on Nuremberg as he now has on German football in general.
In Can Uzun, Nuremberg really have one to watch.
Can Uzun, without a doubt, a player to watch. In Leverkusen, they realised early on that this boy possessed exceptional talent.
Takes on 3 players, Fits! A joy to watch. So much ability on the ball.
In 2024, he led Bayer to the first League and Cup double in the club's history and was their standout performer.
Florian Wirtz!
But his star had begun to rise 4 years earlier. At just 17, he became the youngest goalscorer in Bundesliga history at the time. And he also found the net for Leverkusen in the first round of the DFB Pokal.
Florian Wirtz gets his first DFB Cup goal for the work self.
Florian Wirtz, a once-in-a-generation talent who took his first steps in the DFB Pokal. The quarter-final in 2011, Schalke versus Nuremberg, 2-2 and into extra time. Master strategist Felix Magath still had an ace up his sleeve. In the 116th minute, he brought on 17-year-old Julian Draxler, and just 3 minutes later, this happened. Draxler's wonder goal fired Schalke into the semi-finals and himself into the hearts of the fans. And by the way, that very year, the Royal Blues lifted the trophy, with teenage sensation Draxler scoring the opening goal in the final.
Through ball, good effort. Oh, that's a brilliant goal from Julian Draxler.
The start of a great career, and his stage was the DFB Pokal. Coming in at just 1 day younger than Julian Draxler is Mathys Tel, the youngest DFB Pokal scorer in the history of record champions Bayern München.
Infield here to find Mathys Tel for Bayern. It's Mathys Tel with a piece of Bayern history. The youngest man to ever score a goal for Bayern in a competitive game.
In the 5-0 win over Victoria Köln, the Frenchman scored this beauty. A starting 11 debut, a dream goal, and real promise for the future. In August 2022, Mathys Tel wrote his name into the history books of Bayern and the DFB Pokal. On to the podium places now. Gio Reyna was waiting on the touchline for his moment, and Dortmund desperately needed a spark in Bremen. He came on in the 66th minute.
Gio Reyna is coming on in second, the young American.
And just 12 minutes later,
Reyna tries his luck. Oh, good dribbling. Beautiful goal! Oh my goodness, what a beautiful goal from Gio Reyna! That is a corker!
a goal you could watch again and again. His first professional goal, and what a way to get it.
Patrick Obermoyela is on his feet standing next to me, and I can tell you, he's not the only one.
Reyna left his calling cards on the big stage.
Even some of the Bremen fans can't believe that goal.
Second place goes to none other than Jude Bellingham, who'd later go on to win the cup with Dortmund. But first, back to where it all began. His debut for Borussia back in September 2020 in Duisburg. Just 17 years old and with an innocent look about him, but once the action starts, he turns into a machine.
Hazard, oh lovely back heel to Jude Bellingham on his debut for his debut goal for Borussia Dortmund.
It was written in the stars, a man destined for a great career. He became the youngest goalscorer in Dortmund's long club history at the time, taking the record from Gio Reyna. Jude Bellingham, an extraordinary footballer who will surely lift many more trophies. And in first place, the only 16-year-old to have scored in the DFB Pokal. And he comes from the capital. Kenneth Eichhorn, first-team regular at Hertha and generational talent.
Hertha with their tails up. Ball's left by Winkler. Eichhorn! History for Kenneth Eichhorn! The first 16-year-old to score in the DFB Pokal in the modern era. And now he's Hertha's youngest ever scorer. He writes himself into the storybook of this famous competition.
A sublime Hertha swept aside Kaiserslautern, winning 6-1, but a stellar performance was eclipsed by a young giant. Kenneth Eichhorn with a thunderous statement, and now the youngster is daring to dream even bigger.
And back here at the Bayer Arena in Leverkusen, where it's 1-0 to the home side at half-time in this DFB Pokal quarter-final. And Alexander Blessin, I can tell you, has made 2 personnel changes ahead of this second half. Hoppe and Pereira Lage not re-emerging, and there are the 2 who will be coming on. Manoli Saliakas and Ricky J. Jones. Saliakas, the right wing-back, Ricky J. Jones, pacey attacker, in fact the fastest player in the Bundesliga, officially speaking. You can say that now. St. Pauli gave it everything. All that was missing really was productivity in the final third. They made it difficult for Leverkusen, who nevertheless are in front thanks to a goal from Martin Terrier. So the second half underway. Leverkusen 1, St. Pauli 0. And it's Leverkusen, as they like to do after the break, playing towards the Nordkurve, the north end of the stadium. Luis Hoppe has gone off with Saliakas on in his place. And then the other personnel change for the Keats kicker sees Ricky J. Jones take the place of Matthias Pereira-Lage. Ricky J. Jones, who does have a couple of St. Pauli goals to his name. Scored one actually not so very far from here in the match away to Köln, and it was a heartbreaker for FC Köln because it came right at the death. Ended up being a draw when it looked as though St. Pauli would lose. If you go by the XG figures, St. Pauli have been marginally better than Leverkusen so far. Here is Edmond Tapsoba. Joined Leverkusen 6 years ago from Vitória Guimarães of Portugal. Grimaldo had gone forward. Sariakas got in the way of that one. Pass was from Garcia, and it ends up being a free kick to St. Pauli. Terrier with the goal that separates these two. Another quarter-final coming up tomorrow. Kiel versus Stuttgart, the Pokal winners last season. And next week, Hertha against Freiburg on Tuesday. Bayern against Leipzig on Wednesday. Sands for the visitors. Fujita. Leverkusen felt that there was a case for a red card against him in the first half, but given as a yellow. Sands again, sending it into the air. Saliakas. Ricky J. Jones to pull it back. Has that very distinctive gait. Really does know how to switch on the afterburners. Well, that was beautiful play, aesthetically pleasing from Grimaldo and company. And, well, the pass less aesthetically pleasing. And Schick in support. Fujita. St. Pauli. Pirka's gone over to that other side now with Oppi no longer on the pitch and Saliakas on the right. And that's an excellent pass. Sinani across the face of goal. Oh my goodness! It was there for Ricky J. Jones, but offside anyway. Saliakas trying to make the connection with Sinani. He had strayed. Ricky J. Jones, nevertheless, well, I've wanted to tuck it home. Only been on the pitch for 3 minutes or so. Mentioned the goal against Köln. Also scored against Dortmund. And the one thing about him is he has the capacity to tire out opponents. Sinani up there beside him right now. Haven't shied away from the high pressing approach at times, St. Pauli. Ricky J. Jones couldn't quite keep the ball, and he was making sure of that. Not just a free kick, but a yellow card here. Florian Badstubner, Andor trotting away from the scene of the crime. So his first DFB Pokal yellow card. Tomoya Andor. Side from Avispa Fukuoka. And all his fourth St. Pauli appearance. Talking of Japanese players, they have Fujita in the side, started this game. They have another Japanese player, Taichi Hara, Ready maybe later to come on. Target forward. Joined from Kyoto Sanga. That was a free transfer. Edmond Tapsoba for Diversev. Palacios. That's the strongest runner of all the players out there on the pitch in the first half in terms of distance covered, 6.3 kilometres. Managed to win 2/3 of his challenges. Ando, who was booked just seconds ago, that was his first lost challenge of this game, by the way. And Pirka was the miscreant there. It's been called forward by Florian Badstübner. Pirka versus Vasquez. Certainly in terms of the discussion after the fact and after the incident that involved Tillman. Just the one goal of record from Martin Terrier. Leverkusen try to reach the last four for the third year running. Palacios. Andrich for Leverkusen. Fujita was there on the centre. They'd sent Vasquez forward as that was developing by Nulfia. Sinani couldn't get there because of the presence of Tapsoba. Leverkusen again looking for the on switch. Certainly have returned to form when you look at recent results. 3 successive wins in all competitions. After 3 successive defeats. Garcia, gorgeous ball for Grimaldo. But just kicked it too far forward for his own good, and the flag is up anyway. Garcia there. Well, that was close. Really close. But it was that bad touch. Meant it was all for naught anyway. This compact stadium, the home of Bayer Leverkusen, and Ben Foll, local to these parts, 25-year-old from nearby Bergisch Gladbach. Sands and all the other players were appealing. There was more than a whiff of handball about that. Saliakas. Lost 7 matches until recently because of an abductor injury. Manolis Saliakas. It's been an injury-hit campaign all around for him because had a calf problem in the summer, had an adverse effect on his preparation for the new season. Grimaldo, there he is again in that playmaking role. Palacios. He'll try to knit these short passes together and then eventually catch out to St. Pauli. Cause a lapse in concentration, perhaps with a longer pass. Tapsoba. Andrich was waiting there in the middle of the defence. Grimaldo never likely to get to it. And here they come, St. Pauli. It's Fujita in the middle. Pirka. Ten minutes into the second half. Tapsoba just in front of Andrich. Taking charge of the situation. Kwanzaa. Garcia. Palacios. Terrier. There's been a possession advantage in this game for Leverkusen, but the overall number perhaps not as high as we thought it might be before a ball was kicked in anger. It was 57% in the first half. Tapsoba. And this passing pattern continues. Two sides will meet again on league duty 11 days from now. This corresponding stage of the Pokal last season looked as though Leverkusen were going out, were trailing 2-0. Home against Köln, turned it around after extra time. 1-0 to Leverkusen here. Sands who got that one away. And a change in the offing from Jesper Hjulmen. Couple of changes. Artur will come on for Lucas Vazquez. They have Eki Fernandez ready as well. And Vazquez, his first taste of the DFB Pokal. Was bothered by back problems for a couple of months. Palacios has had his injury concerns in this campaign. First start here since mid-September, so he lasted 57 minutes. On comes Fernandez as well as Artur for Bayer Leverkusen. Artur it was who scored the opening goal for Leverkusen in Frankfurt at the weekend. There was considerable talk about him possibly leaving the club a couple of months ago. All that has changed, of course, because there has been a big form upswing. And he's often been the provider for Martin Terrier. They've worked rather well together. And a good understanding. Artur setting them up for Terrier. And the goal by Martin Terrier right now represents Leverkusen's potential ticket to the last four. Garcia, and that pass out to Artur. And, oh, it was a dangerous ball in there for Ando to react to. Schick was in the vicinity. Well, it almost reached Schick. Kwanzaa, the man who had the idea in the first place. And Grimaldo to take it. Grimaldo for Leverkusen. Fernandez was the man who poked it back out there towards Alex Grimaldo. Times in the second half so far, it's almost as though chess-like instincts are taking hold. St. Pauli players saying to Leverkusen, okay, it's your move now, we'll wait for you to make it, and then maybe it's our move here. Saliakas. Well, it was slick and good one-touch stuff. Zidane and Rasmussen there, looking to make an impact. Tillman. And it was effective defending by Ando. Grimaldo for Leverkusen. Got it back from Schick. Alex Grimaldo. Fernandez. Grimaldo. Garcia. Fernandez for Tapsoba. Andrich. Still trying to chase it down. Front men for St. Pauli. Sinani. This was close enough to get the touch on the ball, which helped matters. Fernandez. Grimaldo. Here's Martin Terrier for Leverkusen. Again, St. Pauli have dropped off. It's picking their spots in terms of when to sit deeper, in terms of when to press higher up. Either side registering a shot or attempt on target since the interval. Schick. He was really crowded out. The number situation didn't favour him. Sinani again trying to get tightly on to Tapsoba. Here's Grimaldo for Leverkusen. Aleix Garcia. Edmond Tapsoba. Fernandez. His first season with Leverkusen. Was playing in Saudi Arabia. Al Qadisiyah. Garcia this time using Andrich. So he looks to open things up. Schick was there, so too Terrier. And Ando, unforced error you might say. Wasn't under heavy pressure, but corner conceded right in the shadow of the Nordkurve here at the Bayer Arena. Grimaldo ambling over to take this one. See the St. Pauli fans way in the distance there. Taken short by Grimaldo. Got it back straight away. Aleix Garcia, and Schick is there! There's the insurance for Leverkusen. It comes from Patrick Schick. Well, the goals haven't been flowing for him recently, but that's an important one. Leverkusen with a bit of breathing room in this quarter-final. And it's a difficult road back for St. Pauli now. Well, this is how they worked it. Grimaldo. And then Garcia. And Schick there seemed to be onside. And Patrick Schick capable of scoring all manner of goals. It wasn't as easy as perhaps he made it look. Dropping ball that he was able to almost get in the way of on the volley. And 2-0 to Leverkusen. So I mentioned just one goal from his last 7 Bundesliga games. Of course it has been a season of injury at times for Schick as well. Jesper Hjulmen has said, don't worry about Patrick Schick, the goals will come. Bound to come. And now, talking of Jesper Hjulmen, another change. Jonas Hofmann for the man who scored the first goal of the evening, Martin Terrier. That was his finish with Schick on the ground at the time. And celebrating with glee. On comes Jonas Hofmann. He's come back into favour much more this season. He's mostly on the outside looking in the last campaign. Now, there to field it is Blaswijk, with Andrich doing the shepherding. Rookie Jay Jones not all that far away from the pair of them. 10th goal in all competitions this season for Patrick Schick. A couple now in the DFB Pokal. Now Grimaldo having to reorganise here defensively. St. Pauli came off Ando. They expect to see Saliakas in that position. Two to the good. Productivity levels ticking up again for Leverkusen. The factory 11. Jackson Irvine is going to come on for St. Pauli. Having to be a bit judicious in terms of how they use him. He's had the foot problem all season long. It's got to be a few minutes here, maybe the odd start there, but he's such a relentless footballer as well, the Australian. Greatly loved by the St. Pauli fans. Artur fed that one back to Kwanzaa. Garcia. Grimaldo. Tapsoba. Tillman. Curling ball in there from Tillman. Metz was able to rise up and head it behind for the corner. Knew that Hofmann was just behind him. And here is Jackson Irvine. And that will be it for Fujita. Joel Shima Fujita was yellow carded in the first half. Leverkusen thought that perhaps he should have been sent off. Certainly made remarks to the officials to that effect. Grimaldo kept it on the ground. Garcia for Grimaldo and Schick. Well, he's gone down, looked over towards the referee. More in hope than an expectation of anything being given. Grimaldo with Schick again, and with Saliakas. Nothing doing. Leverkusen moving ever closer to a place in the last four. It's always nice when you get it done and dusted early on in February, have a couple of months before you need to contemplate the semi-final. Some big beasts left in the DFB Pokal. Stuttgart, the holders, playing tomorrow night. Freiburg will fancy their chances next week against Hertha. And then we have two real heavyweights up against each other, Bayern and Leipzig. And lock horns in 8 nights' time. Saliakas. Irvine was showing for it, received it from Sands. Saliakas. Metz. Again with James Sands. Remember being very taken with his performance in the Hamburger Stadtderby earlier this season, match day 2. Ran his legs off and really controlled play. Now Ando with that ball played in, it's come here to Daniel Sinani. Well, at long last it goes down as a St. Pauli attempt. Took a deflection on the way through. Sinani off Tapsoba. So right in front of the away section, and the 3,000 St. Pauli fans who have travelled here to the Rhineland. Irvine is up there, not all that far away from Blaswijk. Now, one moment. Ryan Badstubner not entirely satisfied. He's having a word with Artur. St. Pauli have left themselves with an awful lot to do. Daniel Sinani, and well, it wasn't a bad corner. Blasvik felt that was all he could do with it. A slightly strange punch. Vastly experienced Yanis Blasvik, 34 years of age. So they'll try from the other side. St. Pauli. Again, it will be Sinani. Plenty of movement in there. Daniel Sinani. Saliakas. Can he take on the shot? Blocked straight away. And here's Jonas Hofmann. It's maybe a little bit risky. It ends up being a free kick. The foul by James Sands. Have to come all the way back. There's a smile on his face, Florian Badstubner. This was Tapsoba. A bit over-eager. Second ball on the pitch. Now we're back in business. So on the XG, St. Pauli still fractionally ahead. They are ahead in terms of shots or attempts. The goal from Schick, incidentally, the first attempt on target by either team after the interval. It does tell you a lot about the patterns involved. Grimaldo, here for Leverkusen. Hernandez with that little touch on. St. Pauli were always likely to be difficult, doughty opponents for Bayer Leverkusen, notwithstanding their league position and that of Bayer 04. As we keep saying, to use the German phrase, der Pokal hat seine eigenen Gesetze. The cup has its own laws. The law of the last couple of years, anyway, has been Leverkusen will make it through to the last four. They're on course to do that here. Of course, to eliminate St. Pauli, who have only once been to the semi-finals, a couple of decades ago now. Andrich. Hernandez helped the ball on its way, got it back from Hofmann. Garcia. Nobody really remembers how you did it in terms of progressing in the day of Pokal. Grimaldo, that didn't go to plan at all. Hofmann trying to create room for himself. Oh, off the outside of the post. Jonas Hofmann. Well, he looked up and saw that there was a bit of green space ahead of him. Not an easy chance from there, but it was more than respectable, that effort. Fall in the nick of time. Got rid of the ball. Zadiakas with the pass. Jackson Irvine. Haven't seen as much from Pirka in the second half over on that side. Played on the right-hand side in the first half, but Zadiakas coming on at the beginning of the second. Rasmussen's pass for the visitors. Tillman. It wasn't the perfect pass in the end. Rasmussen was onto it. Pirkas there. A lot of players to play through here for Die Kiezkicker. Metz. Sands. Irvine. James Sands trapped by Saliakas. Rolling it through towards Ricky J. Jones. Well, nothing comes of it. Blasvik. Schick did just enough in terms of touching it towards Hofmann. Here's Edmond Tapsoba. Leverkusen now very much waving at the semi-final stage of the DFB-Pokal. All of a sudden, St. Pauli come up with the ball, and here's Irvine. Ricky J. Jones. It's Tapsoba away. Andrich was the player trying to keep Jones in check. Ready for St. Pauli. It's a story of, alas, no Smith, or Smith, to give him his preferred pronunciation, Eric Smith. They don't want to be saying, alas, no Jones. Hofmann really drilled this in. It was curling away. And off the lower part of the post. Jones having to be assessed here. It was a very awkward landing. As they might have tweaked something. There's Tillman earlier. Lovely skill. We know that's in his repertoire. Scored at the weekend against Frankfurt. A brace in the previous match in the Champions League against Villarreal. And Patrick Schick with the second goal for Leverkusen this evening. Garcia with that splendid ball in, and Schick reaching out, doing precisely what he does best, and glum faces all around in the St. Pauli camp. They adore Patrick Schick here, and with good reason. He's been a terrific servant to Bayer 04. Well, here we go. Taichi Hara is going to be coming on. He's still in pain, Jones. So that's it for Ricky J. Jones. Hara, third Japanese member of this St. Pauli squad. And if this holds up, we're going to be able to say that Leverkusen have won 5 successive quarter-finals in the DFB-Pokal. It was a close shave against Köln this time last year. Eventually came a cropper in the semi-final against Arminia Bielefeld. So Jones will take no further part in the game. And on comes the tall Japanese striker, Taichi Hara. Signed just a couple of days ago from Kyoto Sanga. Free transfer, 23 goals in 110 matches in the Japanese top flight. By all accounts, a classic target man. Garcia. in the final 10 minutes of normal time. And Leverkusen really just want to avoid any accidents, anything that might give St. Pauli hope. Hasn't been a completely polished Leverkusen performance, but to their credit, they've restricted St. Pauli in the second half to not an awful lot. I thought the first half, from a Leverkusen point of view, was much more mistake-ridden. Artur. The Brazilian keeps going. It's fine play by Artur, but then the pass or the drawback left a bit to be desired. Potential little flashpoint there. Artur being ordered away. Kars was involved. Irvine is still involved. Decision goes the way of St. Pauli. Well, it could have ended up being quite a hot discussion, but really much ado about nothing. Artur and Pirka earlier on. Artur, who is tremendously skillful, has had a difficult time of things with injury as a Leverkusen player. That was the problem for him. Not long after he joined the club, wasn't really able to stake a claim for a first-team place for a long time. And activity there from Mahara, the substitute Andrich. Was the man who he caught. SVB is the cry from the Nordkurve. Sportverein Bayer, Sports Club Bayer. Because that's how they came into being, as the sports section of the Bayer factory. The early years of the factory as it was. But at the factory there wouldn't really be a Leverkusen as we know it. Wasn't much of a community here prior to that. They date back to 1904, the Sports Club. Garcia venturing forward. Hofmann trying to help him out. Artur is there, was behind him. Here's Tapsoba. Wanza. Artur. Just a bit too much on the pass for Hofmann. Pirka gave it to Irvine. And here is Ando. Saliakas. Patrick Schick. 2 attempts. That 1 goal. 77% accuracy with his passing. The goal will certainly have done Patrick Schick's confidence a power of good. It does appear that they're going to make a change and replace Patrick Schick very shortly by Leverkusen. It will be, perhaps predictably, Christian Kofane coming on. When the second goal went in, that Schick goal, you just felt it was going to take something quite outrageous from St. Pauli. They are the lowest scoring team in the Bundesliga. Only 18 they've managed in 20 matches. It's not the strength of the side. They can be stuffy and they can be aggressive. Can be hard opponents. Not to come back from 2-0 down against a team of Leverkusen's calibre. Perhaps a bridge too far. 5 minutes of normal time to go here at the Bayer Arena. Tapsoba and Blaswich And here is Andrich for the twice winners of the DFB-Pokal. We've got Loic Badé ready to come on as well as Kofane. Irvine doing his best to pick a pass. Garcia's there. Well, some of the fans deciding that they can perhaps allow themselves to make an early dash to Leverkusen Mitte, the railway station. Avoid the crowds, but the majority still inside. And it's Grimaldo, and Hofmann was waiting. Rasmussen's pass for the visitors. Gobbled up there by Grimaldo, unaware of the lurking presence of Saliakas. Hasn't been a completely precise Leverkusen performance. As I said earlier, a good deal more ragged in the first half than it has been since the break. The fact is, though, even though St. Pauli looked threatening at times in the first half, Yanis Blasvi really hasn't had too much to do. It was all activity in front of him, but without saves having to be made. Schick couldn't quite get there. Now Sinani. It wasn't a bad idea. Hara there to hold it up. And Sinani to chip it in. Kwanzaa for Leverkusen. Tillman. Free kick it'll be. So Schick will make his way off, having contributed mightily to the success story that apparently is going to be written by Leverkusen this evening. And Kofane will be the replacement. He's a very exciting young player, the 19-year-old from Douala in Cameroon. His first season here in Leverkusen. And Garcia bids goodbye to the game. On comes Loic Badé. And Abdoulaye Sese is out there for St. Pauli, so they've made a personnel change as well. If you're wondering why it has all turned very quiet, it's because of an emergency medical procedure here in the stadium that had to be carried out, and that is the tradition here in German football once fans learn of that. Then they're going to show their respect. Well, fairly needless corner conceded. And Sinani will take it. Almost right on 90 minutes. They had Sese up there as well as Hara. Irvine. Sese, not much room in which to work. And apparently was no foul there. Sese and Sinani together for St. Pauli. So we've gone past the 90-minute mark, and there will be 4 added minutes. So not much hope now for Alex Blessin and St. Pauli. Kasper Hjulmen and Leverkusen are odds on to be in the last 4. First team to make it. And again, the reason why it has all turned quiet is because of an emergency, medical emergency here inside the stadium. So Leverkusen and their fans now have the luxury of being able to watch all the other competitors in action. Stuttgart, who won the Pokal last season, beat Bielefeld in the final. Play tomorrow up in Kiel. And next week, on Tuesday, it'll be Hertha against Freiburg. Wouldn't it be incredible if Hertha were able to make it to the final in Berlin on their own patch? Something they've never done since the final was moved to the Olympiastadion in 1985. Now, Hofmann's pass here for Grimaldo. The defenders backing off, and Hofmann! Jonas Hofmann puts the seal on it. It's guaranteed now. Bayer Leverkusen are through to the semi-finals of the DFB Pokal. And around the world, the Leverkusen goal hymn strikes up again. It was a calm piece of play by Hofmann, and Foll once more having to pick it out of his own net. Sese, who was robbed of it there, Andrich wasn't holding back. And Hofmann had a very significant part to play in the creation of it. Grimaldo, and then Jonas Hofmann, one touch to control it, was able to fool Metz. Misjudged it, Karol Metz. And Jonas Hofmann, to the delight of the Nordkurve just a few metres away. And certainly to the delight of Jesper Hjulmen, making it a 3-goal cushion. Just have to wait for it to be checked. But on they shall go. Good goal, Jonas Hofmann. And confirmed 3-0 here. Maybe a little bit flattering in terms of play as a whole. Nathan Teller looking on because of a foot injury, an immensely popular player in these parts. Jesper Hjulmen having to do without him. Well, the last flickering flame of hope for St. Pauli long since extinguished. Kept in by Tillman. Well, can they find another goal? Do they have the ambition to do that? They've almost had the 4 added minutes. Bayer Leverkusen through to the semi-finals for a 3rd year running. And Jesper Hjulmen's side pulled away in the second half with the goals from Schick and then Hofmann in stoppage time after Martin Terrier had put Die Werkself in front. St. Pauli full of bite in the first half, but lacked that cutting edge, and they are out. It is finished. Leverkusen 3, St. Pauli 0. Simon Rolfes there, the sporting CEO of Leverkusen. Jesper Hjulmen, the coach. And Leverkusen will see it as job done. They were favourites to overcome St. Pauli, who didn't quite offer enough, though they had their moments in the first half, and they had Leverkusen making mistakes in the first half. Ultimately, you would say, not undeserved from the Leverkusen angle. XG numbers 1.23 for Leverkusen, 1.09 for Die Kiezkicker. And a muted atmosphere near the end because of the medical emergency here inside the stadium. But it is something that I think is right and proper that happens here in Germany, not necessarily in other countries, but when word comes through that there is such an emergency, then you show your respect and you realise that while we love football, there are more important things. Well, Kasper Hjulmen will be able to tell his family members who've been giving him a bit of stick, yeah, who knows, we might win the DFB-Pokal this season. St. Pauli won't be doing so. Their adventure is over. Only once have they made it to the last four. That was famously 20 years ago, and they kept knocking out Bundesliga sides. They were a third-tier team at the time. Alexander Blessin will now have to get his charges ready for Stuttgart on Saturday. He hails from Stuttgart, actually from Stuttgart Bad Cannstatt, where the VfB Stuttgart Stadium is, but that game will be at the Millern-Tor. And the Leverkusen players moving up towards the Nordkurve to say thank you to their fans who were with them this evening. Berlin, Berlin, wir fahren nach Berlin. Berlin, Berlin, we're going to Berlin. Well, not quite yet, I suppose maybe in the last four if Hertha were to make it through. That is a possibility, but what they're referring to is the final in Berlin at the end of May at the Olympiastadion. Leverkusen were there a couple of years ago and prevailed in the final against Kaiserslautern. That's the usual contrast in emotions at the end of a Pokal evening. Leverkusen jubilant. Meanwhile, their opponents, St. Pauli, disconsolate. Thousand fans here to support St. Pauli. They knew it was going to be a difficult assignment. Very hard draw. But the players didn't let their fans down, really. Celebration time for Bayer Leverkusen, and now they can sit and take in the other games. That's the wonderful thing about starting off the quarterfinals. Well, somebody's newborn looking for a present from Robert Andrich. That's what's on the side anyway. Good night's work from Leverkusen. Yeah, you might say they didn't hit the creative heights they're capable of hitting, but in the DFB-Pokal it is all about progressing. And again, rendition of Berlin, Berlin, wir fahren nach Berlin. That's where they want to be heading. So the final facts and figures for you to digest. 60% of the possession, Leverkusen. St. Pauli did outshoot them, but none of their 9 attempts on target. 4 of the 7 for Leverkusen on target. St. Pauli winning more of the challenges, and distance covered just about even, 119 kilometres per side there. So the Bayer Arena bids goodnight to this first quarter-final, but 3 more quarter-finals to come. Tomorrow and then again Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Patrick Schick, scorer of the second goal this evening. And let's reflect on this game and how the big moments came about. Patrick Schick went down inside the box for Leverkusen, but they played on, rightly so. There was no transgression, and Martin Terrier with a very fine finish there. He's a player whose tail is up. Very different proposition from the player we saw in his first season with Leverkusen. And 1-0, the opening goal of the contest, came at a good time for Leverkusen because they had been put under pressure by St. Pauli. They were making life difficult for them. And this, the second goal, Garcia with a telling ball in. Ares Garcia for Patrick Schick, who was able to finish on the volley. Preferred left foot of his, and I think the St. Pauli players suspected it. That was, if not that, then it was going to be mighty difficult from that point on. For good measure, in stoppage time, a third Leverkusen goal. Grimaldo making the connection with Jonas Hofmann, who had come on as a substitute. And that put the icing on the quarter-final cake for Die Werkself. Karol Metz reaching out, couldn't get anything on the ball. And a composed finish by one of the senior pros here in Leverkusen, Jonas Hofmann. So disappointment for Alexander Blessin. St. Pauli eliminated. Leverkusen go marching on, and they'll be able to sit and watch as Kiel face Stuttgart tomorrow, and next week Hertha against Freiburg on Tuesday, Bayern against Leipzig on Wednesday. The final score, Leverkusen 3, St. Pauli 0. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage of this DFB Pokal quarter-final from the Bayer Arena. Until next time, Derek Ray saying goodnight from the Rhineland.